Hi everyone, I'm Monique with Open Gate Quilts, and today we're going to go over the little Lone Star from Quilt Smart, and I'm going to show you how to use the fusible interfacing that you can purchase through quiltsmart.com. If you are in the subscription box, you received this. It is the slickest thing. It's a lot of fun. It's a little challenging, but I know you can do it. This is the quilt that we are going to be making, so I'm going to show you how to do it step by step on how to put it all together. So hold on, we'll get everything ready and we'll get started. When you start, what you're going to do is you're going to cut these into diamond shapes, and you're going to want to have 8 of these. You're also going to want to make sure that you keep your pieces, which are cut into 1.5 by 3-inch pieces, in order. So you're going to have your 1, 2, 3, 4. This will just help you keep organized. Then once you have these pieces in order and you have these cut into order, you also want to note that you have a fusible side and which has the bumpy side on it, and you also have the regular side. So you have your fusible and your bumpy side. Obviously the fusible is the bumpy side. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to be fusing this, and you're going to start with your number 1, and you're going to place your number 1 piece where it says start, and you're going to line up this right in here, and you're going to line it up there, and you're going to line it up on the bumpy side, and you're going to take your pressing, and I'm just going to pull it over here. I'm going to move these out of the way a little bit, and you're going to press it. And if you want to press it here, you're just going to lightly press it, and so you're going to take your iron, and if you have a pressing sheet, you can use that. I'm just going to lightly press it with the tip of my iron, so you got to be careful because you don't want to get that fusible on your iron. You're going to do that. You're going to take this out of the way, and then you're going to take your number 2 and you're going to line it up so it's between the 2 and the 3. So you have a number 2 and you have a number 3, and you're going to line it up between the 2 and the 3. Now there's 2 ways to do this. You can either glue it in place. So if you have a glue stick, that you use a fabric glue stick, or you can pin it. Either way works. When you pin it, you have to remember that you're going to be sewing on these diagonal lines. So I'm going to pin it, because I did pin it, and I'm going to pin it from this side, but I'm going to pin it in 2 places. I'm going to pin it along the diagonal, and I like these flathead pins. And the reason I like flathead pins is so that when I turn it over, I don't have bumps when I'm sewing. So I'm going to pin it here, and I'm going to pin it along the diagonal that I'm sewing, so I don't have to remove the pins when I'm sewing. Once I have those pinned, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to actually sew along this diagonal line. So I'm going to take it to the machine, and I'm going to sew it along that diagonal line. And I don't use a different stitch length. I'm just going to use my regular, I use a 2.5, and I sew it basically from dot to dot. And I'm going to sew it. And then I have a feature on my sewing machine that just cuts my thread. So I'm just going to use that. If you don't have that on machine, just go ahead and cut it. But you do want to sew right on that line. And I am going to cut any excess threads that I have off here. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to take my pins out. And then the next step is I'm just going to go ahead and press it. Now you can finger press it like I'm doing, or you can take it to the machine or take the iron and you can press it. If you do take it to the iron, which I'll show you right now, I'm going to grab my pressing, my press here. And I'm going to take my iron. Again, you just want to be real careful so you don't distort it or press on the wrong, press too much on it. There, you want to press it. As you see, because you've got your fusible, then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your number 3 fabric. So that's why it's important that you keep organized. Take your number 3 fabric and you're going to take your number 3 and you're going to put it between 3 and 4. Okay, so again, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the 2 pins and I'm going to make sure that it's between 3 and 4, and I'm going to just pin that there, and I'm going to do the angle, same angle as I had before, so I'm going to angle it this way. If you want, you can use your glue. If you do use glue, I would just do it on this edge so that I would not do it over here, because you're going to press it this way and then you have the glue on the fabric that's showing. Another thing I didn't mention is I did not take out the bottom layer and the bottom 2 layers, and the reason is that it's not going to make a difference when the fabric shows through. You have several layers coming through. If you had a really light fabric, you might want to do that, but I don't know that it's going to make a big difference. So I just left all the layers in there. So it's a little thicker, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. So again, you're just going to go back and you're going to go ahead and you're going to stitch from dot to dot. And if it's not perfect, again, don't worry too much about it. It's a pretty forgiving quilt. It's not going to be, if you're off a little bit, it's not going to make a big difference. So then you're just going to take your pins out. And you're going to, again, press this off, and like, see how I'm a little off there. I'm not going to worry too much. I'm going to go ahead, and this time I'm just going to finger press it. Okay. Excuse my sniffles. I'm just getting over that flu. All right. So once I have that one done, the next one is the last one. I'm going to do number 4. So again, I'm keeping my order. I'm going to do the last thing. I'm going to make sure that when I lay it out, I'm going where it says number 4, and I'm going to make sure that I'm laying it where it says number 4. Again, using my pins, I'm going to make sure it's there. Again, don't worry too much if it's off a little bit, and that's why I'm keeping this bottom layer as well, so that if it is off, I'm going to have that guide and it'll be in my 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to make sure I'm good there. That's what's so nice about having this foundation piecing. It's going to keep it nice and straight. You're going to have this wonderful foundation, and if it's off a little bit, it'll help it keep it nice and straight. Okay, turn it over, finish this off. And then the last one, Again, we're just going to finger press. And then on this last one, I would go ahead and just take the ironing board again. Take it to the ironing board and take my iron and just gently press it down. That way you can get these seams nice and open and get them laid out flat. Okay. So once you get the first one done, the next one you do is you start with fabric 2. So then the next one, it's the same process. You're going to take fabric 2, you're going to lay it out here with right sides up. You're going to take fabric 3 and you're going to have it right sides down. And you're going to pin it in place. Turn it over and sew. And you're going to continue doing that until you get all 4 rows together. Once you get 4 rows together, we'll meet back and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do is you do want to fuse this so that it's nice and flat. So I'm just going to move these a little bit. I'm going to take my mat here again and my iron. And again, you just want to be careful when you're fusing this. And if you have a fusible or a mat that you can put on top, you can just do that. And then once you have that done, then you can take this and you can fold this, and there's a dotted line here that you would fold this on, and you're going to fold it in half. And I would just either press it or pin it in place, and you're going to sew along these lines here. So I'm just going to, actually I'm going to pin it. Might as well do that. So I'm just going to pin it so it stays in place and along that dotted line there. And I'm going to sew along there. So you just want to make sure that this is nice and flat and that it doesn't, because I've had it where it kind of it flips up a little bit. So that's why I just want to make sure it's nice and flat. So we're going to do that on all 3 seams there. So you're going to sew along that straight line there. See how nice that turns out? It points meet, works out pretty slick. I'm going to do that again. Then once you get the last one done, then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to press all the seams towards the start. So you're going to take and you're going to press them all towards the start. So I'm going to, again, I'm going to grab my pressing mat here, and my iron, and I'm going to press them towards the start. So that would be towards here. So I'm going to just press them towards the start. One of the things that I would like to do before I do that too is I'm going to trim this up a little bit so I don't have this excess. And that will help me so I'm not worried about this fusing to my mat or to my ironing board or to my iron. So you can trim some of this excess off here. And there's two dotted lines here. There's one here that is, it says this extra, and if you can read it a little better, if you put it on a white surface here, it says this extra section allows for placement of arrows. Cut off an inner dash line after sewing the last row. So you can cut this line off here, and then you can also cut this extra off here. So I've got my mat right here. I'm going to cut that off so that we've got a little bit of that extra off. So I'm going to cut that off. And I'm a rotor cutter fan, so I'm going to use that before I cut anything else off. So cut off some of this excess fusible just to get it out of the way so it does not get on my iron or my ironing board. So let me get some of this out of the way here. Again, look at my ironing surface. I'm going to press it towards the start. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to press it towards the start here. And once I get it nice and pressed, the next thing we'll do is we're actually going to trim it down on all those dotted lines. So again, we're going to need our cutter and our ruler. And we're going to cut it on the dotted line here. Oops, I got my thing all. So I'm going to cut it here on the dotted line. We're going to cut it on this dotted line here. We're going to cut it on this dotted line here. This one. And then we're going to cut it over here on this one. And then we get our diamond. Now remember how I said we were off a little bit? Don't worry about that. This is going to be caught in the seam. We're going to be caught in our seam. It's going to be perfect. I had the same thing. If you look at my quilt here, I'm going to go back over here, bring this up. I had the same thing on my quilt here and I had no problems. So don't worry about that. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to make another one of these and I'm going to show you how to put a section together, and then we will get this all ready to put together and you'll see how beautiful it will come out. So we'll see you in a bit. Once you get your diamonds all pieced together and trimmed up, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put your squares together for your quadrant. So you're going to have 4 quarters that you're going to put together. And it does say this in your instructions as well. And when you put these together, you're going to cut your 7-inch squares diagonally once, so that's going to be your corners. You're going to have your 5.5-inch squares that you cut diagonally once again, and those are going to be on this side. And note that you have mirror images. So you want to make sure that when you lay these out, you have these out. And also note that your lightest fabric is in the corners and your darkest fabric is on the outside. So this is in the center and this is on the outside. So when you sew these together, you're going to sew these here like this, and then you're going to do the mirror image. And actually in the picture I have it so you have it this way, so I'm going to just turn it so it's the same way as in the picture in your instructions. So what you're going to do is you're just going to sew them, and I'm going to do that right now so you can see how to sew it. And also note when you sew these together that the triangles are larger than needed, which is great because then you can square them up and you don't have to worry about trying to match that up. Just in case these are different sizes, and it'll work out great. So, and you do have pressing directions. So this is pressed towards your light. So I'm going to go ahead and press that. And then I'm going to sew this to this. And this one is pressed towards the diamond. And that one's a little more difficult to press, so I'm just going to first finger press it to help it get there, and then really help it. Okay. And this one is pressed towards the triangle here. This one out. And again, this one's pressed towards the diamond. And the reason is so that these are pressed in the opposite direction. That's why we did that. Okay, so we have these come together. as you can see, if you look, these are all going in opposite directions. And so you can start at the center and go out, and then your seams will all go in opposite directions, and you have a nice, your seams will all match up, and it'll be so pretty. See how beautiful those points match? This looks great. Once you get this done, then you're going to press your seams open. You're going to square this up. Once you get all 4 of these corners done, that's when you're going to square it up, and you're going to find out which one's the smallest, because you're going to find that there might be a little bit different. Once you find which one's the smallest, then you're going to square them all to the same. Just make sure you watch your 1/4 inch seams out here. Once you find they're all the same size, you square them up all to the same size, put them together, and then you can do your borders. Once you do your borders, you can put it together. Quilting it, all I did was just did a free motion kind of a swirl in and out, one of my favorite designs, and I used that pink that was in your box, and that's what I did. So I'll meet you back at the camera. Thank you everybody for joining me for the 2026 subscription box large project, which was from Operetta, Little Lone Star. And I do have some panels left if ever anybody is interested. I don't have any more kits, but I do have some of the fusible panels left. So just give me email info@opengatequilts.com, and I can set you up. You can do it in any colors. It is a beautiful quilt. It's easy to do. There, if you have any questions on it, you can always ask me. And you can always check out quiltsmart.com, because they have some different kind of panels and they have some different ideas. So check it out. And if you have any questions, like I said, give me a shout and we'll get you set up. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Quilt bind and enjoy. Bye.